If you are trying to sound more natural in American English, there is one word that's going to be very crucial to understand and apply to your speech the next time that you speak. And this concept is pitch. It's concepts we spend a lot of time talking about, but maybe you haven't spent much time yourself kind of seeing how it works. When we talk about pitch, pitch is referring to the frequency of sound. So like you can go really high, but you can also go really low. And the thing is that in American English, even if you don't like it, even if it feels very exaggerated or fake to you, the reality is that in American English, we need pitch in order to achieve a more natural sound, because this is how we separate words. And this is also how we separate chunks of words in sentences. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Good morning, guys. Good evening. Good afternoon. Welcome to your daily American English pronunciation show. Wake up, American. We're here Monday through Friday, typically sometime between the hours of around 7 to 8 a.m. to make sure that you can get in your 5 to 10 minutes of pronunciation practice for the day. And to guide you in this process, there's me. Hi, my name is Jeff. It rhymes with breath. That's one of the four keys to a natural sound in American English pronunciation, including placement, pitch, breath, trying to weaken your consonant sounds and strengthen your vowel sounds. And so there's two key areas where we really want to be paying attention to pitch. And so to talk about this, it may be helpful to look at an example sentence. Okay, so I have a sentence here. It has two parts that are separated by a slash. Each of those parts is called a thought group. Okay, we need to understand some fundamentals about how pitch works in a thought group. A thought group, if you know where a thought group is, it tells you a lot of information, because the first thing it tells you is that one of these words is going to be stressed, because in English, every thought group has one primary stress. And that's helpful for us because the primary stress is going to be the place where the pitch is going to rise. And if you're not stressed, then the pitch is going to fall. English doesn't, in general, like it when two syllables have the same pitch. English does not really like it when two syllables have the same pitch. So when we change syllables, we want to either go up or go down. How do we know what direction to go in? Well, if you're not sure what direction to do, if I stress you, then I go up. If I don't stress you, I go down. So in this first thought group, so we have who did you say? If I stress who, then everything else after that needs to drop, right? Who did you say? Who did you say? If I stress say, that means that everything's going to go down until I get to say. It's like, who did you say? Who did you say? Let's compare. If I stress who did you say? If I stress say, who did you say? Hear those little differences? Okay, so that's something that we need to think about. In every thought group, there's one word that's going to receive heavy emphasis. In that stressed word, we're going to go up and pitch on. Okay. The other thing that we need to consider is every single thought group has its own pitch level. I just did it right there. Every single thought group that's a little high pitch, maybe mid-high, has its own pitch level. I went lower. Okay. Every single thought group has its own pitch level. And when you start listening to Americans talk, you're going to hear these changes happening every time there's a thought group. Okay. So what I want to consider, maybe this second thought group took all the food. Took all the food. Oh, maybe let's think about stress really quick. What am I going to stress in the second thought group? If I stress food, it's going to sound like took all the food. Took all the food. Or maybe if I stress took, I might do took all the food. Took all the food. Right? So if I change the stress, that's what it could sound like. But we have two thought groups. And I said when you change the thought group, you change the pitch level. So what am I going to do? No. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm sorry. Sorry about that, guys. So if I have two thought groups, then that means I need to change my pitch level when I go from one thought group to the next. Okay? So for instance, if I say, maybe my first thought group will be higher. Who did you say? My second thought group will be lower. Took all the food. Who did you say took all the food? In that case, I was kind of stressing who and took. Who did you say took all the food? Who did you say took all the food? Maybe, though, my first thought group will be lower and my second thought group will be higher. Who did you say took all the food? Took all the food. Who did you say took all the food? Who did you say took all the food? Do you hear now that that second thought group is higher in pitch? Who did you say? Lower pitch. Took all the food. Higher pitch. Okay, so you can kind of play around with this a little bit. Let's compare again. First thought group higher. Who did you say took all the food? Second thought group higher. Who did you say took all the food? And play around with this. If you can start having this occur every time you speak in sentences in American English, it immediately gives you a much more natural sound. Because what we don't want to do, we don't want to say this as, who did you say took all the food? Who did you say took all the food? Because what that is, that's what we call flat, monotone language. And that becomes much, much, much more difficult for your listener to understand what you were saying. Much, much, much more difficult. Hello to Harrier Panels. Thanks for checking in. A final note about pitch that I'd want to mention. Just because a word is stressed in a sentence does not mean that it's the highest pitch in the thought group. Okay, so just because you have a thought group and a word gets stressed does not necessarily mean it's going to be the highest pitch. Okay, so for instance, let's look at the first thought group here. We have who did you say again. If I stress say, I might say this as, who did you say? Who did you say? I'm still stressing say, but who is actually a little higher, right? Who did you say? Because if say were the highest pitch, it would be like, who did you say? Versus who did you say? So just because I'm stressing you does not necessarily mean that I'm going to be the highest pitch in the thought group. I might be. It can happen. I could say, who did you say? But I might just say, who did you say? And still be able to get the stress on say. So just know, be careful with pitches. You don't have to over stress. What I see some students doing is, if I want to stress say and I want to stress food, they'll do things like, who did you say took all the food? Well, that doesn't sound very natural, right? Because it's a little over stressed. Versus like, who did you say took all the food? Okay, so when you're stressing a word or a syllable, don't feel like you have to go crazy high. All right, guys, so practice this stuff. We have lots of videos on pitch on the channel. Feel free to scan them. We have a pitch workout video on the homepage that you can work on if you're trying to just practice moving between pitches for some free practice and things like that. Harry Panels is asking, how do you pronounce light L, dark L, and what's the difference? All comes dark L, right? Yeah, so a light L, basically, a light L sounds like a L sound with generally contact with your tongue and your top tooth, like L. So if I wanted to pronounce all with a light L, it would sound like all. Versus a dark L, very often is pronounced with the tip of the tongue down and the back of the tongue a little high. So like all. It's like, instead of saying all, it comes like ah. Okay, another word. Let's practice with the word at the beginning. Let's use the word light. So if I use light with a light L, it's going to sound like light. Versus if I use light with a dark L, it'll be like light. Okay. In general, I recommend using dark L's more frequently than light L's because dark L's let more air pass through and tend to lower the placement. Whereas a lot of people are shifting to their first language when they use light L sounds. So it's not necessarily the most natural L sound in American English. All right, with that, guys, I do have to run, but hey, thanks for hanging out with me. There's a lot of pronunciation resources out there. I am completely aware of the fact, so it means a lot that you're here, and I greatly appreciate you guys checking us out. We will be back tomorrow morning with more Wake Up American. I hope you guys have a good day, have a good night, and a good afternoon, and we'll see you soon. Take care.